The road to California promised gold, fertile land, and a better life. But for one group of pioneers, the journey west would become a descent into hunger, madness, and the unthinkable. This is the story of the Donner Party, a caravan swallowed by winter, consumed by despair, and remembered for its most horrifying choice, cannibalism. Opening scene, the dream of the West. It was the spring of 1846, and the United States was gripped by the fever of expansion. The Oregon Trail, the California trail roads of promise carved into the vast wilderness. The West was more than land. It was a dream. Among the families swept into this tide of ambition were the Donners and the Reeds, farmers, craftsmen, mothers, and children. Ordinary people, each believing that a better life waited beyond the horizon. The Donners were wealthy Illinois farmers, led by George Donner, a man of 60, strong yet restless. Beside him, his devoted wife Tamsin, a schoolteacher whose letters revealed a sharp mind and a will as unyielding as iron. With them were 5 daughters: Frances, Georgia, Eliza, and 2 younger girls, innocents who could not imagine the nightmare ahead. The Reeds, led by James F. Reed, were ambitious and determined. If not arrogant, they were well prepared, with wagons built like rolling houses and fine horses. Pulling them, Reed's Irish wife, Margaret, struggled with ill health, yet clung to hope. Their children, Virginia, Patty, and James Jr., laughed at the adventure that seemed to stretch endlessly west. In total, over 80 souls would soon join the caravan. They were strangers then, but the wilderness would bind them together and tear them apart. The fatal choice, Lansford. Hastings' shortcut. On the road west, choices were everything. Paths forked, and the wrong road could mean starvation. Or worse, it was along this journey that the Donner Party made the decision that would seal their fate. In the hands of James Reed was a freshly printed guidebook, written by an ambitious land promoter named Lansford Hastings. His promise was bold, a shortcut the Hastings cut off, that would shave weeks off the journey to California. What the travelers did not know was that Hastings had never fully traveled the route himself. His cutoff was a gamble, an untested path through deserts and mountains, but the dream of arriving faster, of being first to seize California's bounty, was irresistible. On July 19, 1846, the Donner Party chose Hastings' path. That single choice became the hinge of history. Into the wilderness, the desert of salt, the cutoff led them. Through the blazing hell of the Great Salt Lake Desert, what should have been a shortcut became a death march. The sun blistered their skin. The wheels of their wagons sank into the crust of salt, the ground cracking like glass under the weight of cattle and oxen. For miles and miles, there was no water. Animals screamed, tongues swollen, until many collapsed in the white wasteland. Days blurred into torment. Mothers carried children half-conscious from thirst. Wagons were abandoned, possessions thrown aside. Pride, wealth, all of it meant nothing in the face of endless salt. James Reed later wrote of this passage, "Our cattle nearly gave out. Our tongues were parched, our lips cracked. The desert seemed endless, and I feared we were lost in a sea of salt and death." By the time they emerged, the party had lost dozens of oxen and wagons. Their supplies dwindled. Their spirits, once filled with hope, now cracked under the weight of hunger and despair. The shortcut had stolen weeks, not saved them. And worse, the snows of the Sierra Nevada were drawing closer. The seeds of violence, hunger, and exhaustion gnawed at patience. The once united caravan began to fracture. James Reed, proud and domineering, clashed with other men. Tensions boiled until October, when violence erupted. A fight broke out between Reed and a teamster named John Snyder. In the chaos, Snyder lashed at Reed's oxen with his whip. Reed struck back, stabbing Snyder with a knife. The man collapsed, bleeding out in the dirt. Murder on the trail. The law of civilization was gone. The wilderness decided. The caravan convened to judge Reed's fate. Some called for his hanging. Others, fearing further bloodshed, banished him instead. Reed, his family weeping, rode alone into the wilderness, forced to leave his wife and children behind. The seeds of distrust, violence, and isolation were now sown. The Sierra Nevada, the white wall of death. By late October, the Donner Party staggered toward the Sierra Nevada mountains. California was only days away, but nature had one last cruelty to unleash. The skies darkened. Snow began to fall. At first a dusting, then a storm, and then an endless white wall. The Sierra Nevada became a prison. Snowdrifts rose to 20 feet, swallowing wagons whole. Roads disappeared. Horses and cattle froze where they stood. The caravan was trapped at the edge of Truckee Lake, modern-day Donner Lake. There was no way forward and no way back. The pioneers built crude cabins from logs and canvas. Others dug into the snow itself, carving out pits like animals burrowing into the earth. What little food they had was ration, a few pounds of flour, scraps of dried meat. Bone broth boiled until it was little more than water. Each night, the snow fell heavier. Each day, the winds howled louder, and each stomach empty. Closing narration. Episode 1 cliffhanger. The Donner Party had dreamed of California's golden fields. Instead, they were buried alive beneath the white shroud of the Sierra. Supplies dwindled. Tempers flared, and the snow showed no mercy. The mountains were indifferent. And as hunger turned to starvation, the pioneers began to whisper of the unthinkable, of flesh as food. This is only the beginning. In Episode 2, the suffering deepens. The descent into madness, starvation, and the first cries for human flesh.